Hi everyone! Shall we begin the second part of our journey into Gojoseon, the very first nation of the Korean people? We are exploring Gojoseon in 4 parts. First, we saw how it was born through the Dangun Myth. Second, we looked at what kind of country it was through the symbols in that myth. Now, shall we learn a bit more about Gojoseon? Come along as the third story is about to begin. The first nation on the Korean Peninsula, Gojoseon, the third story of the Dolmen. We often say Korean history spans 5 millennia because Dangun founded Gojoseon in 2333 BC. That's a little over 4,300 years ago from today. By the way, have you ever heard the Korean people being referred to as the Han people? Aren't you curious about how that name came to be and how they are identified that way? The secret to that identity is hidden in giant stones called Dolmens. What could that mean? Do you see the large rock placed on top of supporting stones? This is a dolmen. In Korean, it's called kuindol, meaning a propped-up stone. The word propped up means to support something from underneath so that it doesn't tilt. These are found all over the world, but 70% of the world's dolmens are found right here on the Korean Peninsula. You might think they were made by Stone Age people, but dolmens were actually made during the Bronze Age. How do we know? It's simple. Bronze daggers were found underneath them. Bronze is a metal made by mixing soft copper with hard tin. The period when people used these tools is called the Bronze Age. In our history, the Bronze Age began with Gojoseon. Now, using the bronze dagger as an example, shall we look at the process of making bronze tools? To make a bronze dagger, you melt copper and tin into a liquid and pour it into a stone mold. Once it cools, you take it out, grind it, and polish it. Then, a bronze dagger is finished. It's not that complicated, right? The Bronze Age appeared long after humans started farming. Back then, bronze was a very rare metal. So, bronze daggers and ornaments were only used by high-ranking people or priests. For farming, people still used ground stone tools.
The most famous farming tool of the Bronze Age is the semilunar stone knife.
Because of the massive dolmens and the rare bronze items found beneath them, we know there were powerful rulers during this time. Think about it. It took many people to move those heavy stones, so not just anyone could build a dolmen. Archaeologists believe dolmens are the tombs of great rulers. So, should we take a moment to learn how dolmens are made? Pull the heavy capstone to the top and then clear the soil away. To build one, you dig holes for the supporting stones, pile up soil to make a ramp. Pull the heavy capstone to the top and then clear the soil away. Ta-da! A dolmen is complete. There is one more important reason we must know about dolmens. They show us the territory of Gojoseon. Isn't it amazing that stones can tell us where a country was? Dolmens are mainly found on the Korean Peninsula and in Liaoning, China. When we mark the areas where the mandolin-shaped bronze daggers and slender bronze daggers were found, we can see the full reach of Gojoseon. This proves that the cultural sphere of the Han people included Manchuria, Liaoning, and the entire Korean Peninsula.
Dolmens and unique mandolin-shaped daggers are the marks of Gojoseon's influence.
Thus, our people have lived on this land for thousands of years, continuing our history to this day. Now you can understand well, right? The first nation on the Korean Peninsula. The fourth story, iron. The final period of Gojoseon was a time of massive global change. The Iron Age. What was Gojoseon like in the Iron Age?
See the power of the iron.
No way, it breaks so easily.
Iron reached Manchuria and the Korean Peninsula around the 5th century BC. Iron tools were much stronger than bronze. Deep plowing with iron tools led to a huge increase in harvests.
Digging with iron tools is so much better.
It doesn't even compare to stone. I need to get one fast. However, Gojoseon just import iron ore from China, but couldn't make it by themselves. The technology to melt iron ore and forge tools simply didn't exist in Gojoseon. By the way, what kind of special technology would have been needed to make iron ingots? To get iron, you need heat over 1,530 degrees Celsius. You can't reach that temperature just by burning wood. First, you need to burn wood to make charcoal to generate high heat. Then, you need a bellows to force in large amounts of air at once to raise the temperature, which finally allowed iron to be produced. The bellows work on the same principle as gathering your lips and blowing hard. So, let's take a look at the iron-making process. First, you must mine iron ore. Then, on one side, you create charcoal by generating intense heat. Using charcoal and a bellows, you melt the iron ore. However, you cannot produce pure iron in just one go. You must melt the iron ore and then once again melt the iron in a hot fire. Now, molten iron is poured into molds to shape it, or iron is hammered to finally create iron tools in the desired form. How about that? Now you understand how iron tools are made, right? During the Iron Age, it wasn't just farming technology that advanced. Weapons used in warfare also developed significantly. From this time onward, spears and swords made of iron were used. As weapons far stronger than stone or bronze tools appeared, it became an era of fierce warfare where nations fought to devour one another. Scary, right?
Let's attack.
Iron was a blessing for farming, but also a terrifying material for war. For Gojoseon, the various states in China were always a threat. In the 2nd century BC, there were a country called the Qin dynasty. The Qin dynasty unified China under its first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. But after Qin Shi Huang died just 15 years later, the country collapsed. And then the new country Han dynasty took over. This chaos in China affected Gojoseon.
Attack Qin dynasty.
Many people tired of war moved to Gojoseon.
I can't live in there.
Among them was a man named Wee Man. Wee Man led 1,000 followers and asked King Jun of Gojoseon to let him be his subject. King Jun agreed, because Wee Man brought many iron weapons. Wee Man was sent to the border as a general to defend against the Han dynasty.
Welcome to my kingdom.
I am deeply honored for your greeting in person, Your Majesty.
But later, a shocking thing happened. Wee Man replaced King Jun and took the capital, Wanggomsong, becoming the new king of Gojoseon. King Jun was betrayed by the person he trusted. This was in 194 BC. Under his rule, the nation became known as Wee Man Joseon.
How
How could he betray me after I took him in?
Meanwhile, King John, who lost the throne to Wee Man, was forced to go south of the Korean Peninsula and establish a new country called Jin. This helped spread Gojoseon's culture to the southern peninsula. King Wee Man brought in advanced iron technology through ties with the Han Dynasty. Then the country stabilized.
I want to be close to Han.
Now Gojoseon has the technology to produce its own iron tools.
Wee Man also has prepared a policy to further develop Gojoseon. That was trade. Trade refers to buying and selling goods between countries. Wee Man Joseon had a very good geographical location for trade. Because Wee Man Joseon located between the Han Dynasty of China and the state of Jin in the south. They acted as a middleman, blocking direct trade between the two and taking the profits for themselves. This made Wee Man Joseon very wealthy and powerful. And the territory was extended too.
The Han and Jin can only trade through us.
But the Han Dynasty grew angry as Wee Man took all the profits.
Wee Man is keeping all the benefits for himself.
Things got worse when they heard that the Xiongnu and Gojoseon joined hands because Han Dynasty thought of the Xiongnu people in the north who bullied them as enemies. This makes Han very angry. The Han Emperor could no longer take this. In 109 BC, he led a massive invasion into Gojoseon.
Use land and waves to attack all at once.
Gojoseon's army held out at first, but internal conflicts among the rulers made it impossible to stop the Han. In 108 BC, Wanggeomsong fell, and Gojoseon, the fierce country of Korean people, was destroyed. The Han Dynasty then established 4 commanderies in Gojoseon's land. This called 4 commanderies of Han. In this time, people who didn't want to live under Han rule scattered. But these people already had 100 years of experience with iron culture.
We can't live here anymore. Let's leave.
Around this time, other states existed too. Puyo in Manchuria, Gupta and Dongye in the east, and many small states in the south. The people of Gojoseon spread iron culture to these neighbors. And the entire Korean Peninsula was facing a full-fledged Iron Age. Soon, a new era of powerful kings began to stir. This led to the Three Kingdoms period, 고구려, 백제, 신라. Did you enjoy the story of our first nation, Gojoseon? We learned about the Dangun Myth, how Koreans' roots were formed, and why the nation disappeared. Next time, we start the exciting stories of the Three Kingdoms. Are you ready? Then see you next time. Goodbye.